This episode of the BJJ Campaign Podcast is brought to you by Speed Pro East Bay in Alameda, California, in the heart of the San Francisco Bay Area. They're the source for premium visual solutions to spruce up your interior space. From window decals and wall murals to conference room graphics and directional signage, create a work environment that is tailored to your brand. They'll not only print your custom graphics, but do installation as well. Visit eastbayspeedpro.com. That's EASTBAYSPEEDPRO.com. And mention the BJJ Campaign Podcast for 15% off your first order. Also, Eddie is a Jiu-Jitsu guy, so folks go out there and support him.
I'm about to feed him to the sharks right now. Get him hype right now. Yeah. You know the ground is up. Yeah. Everybody that trains, you know the game. Yeah. So let's get it. Slap it up, bump it, and roll. Hey. Yeah, that's the way that it goes. Ain't no better way to better yourself in this game. You're feeling the growth. That's time on the mat. We put in the work. Believe it ain't easy, I know. But we train for the love of the game, the love of the art. Now slap it up, bump it, let's roll.
Welcome to episode 51 of the BJJ Campaign Podcast. My name is Jeff Boone. I'm an A3 blue belt, 2 stripes.
Phil Coors, A2 blue belt, 1 stripe.
And Jerry Gonzalez, A3 black belt, 1st degree.
Welcome, Jerry. Jerry, just a little bit about Jerry. We knew Jerry from last year from camp. We're at Origin Immersion Jiu-Jitsu camp again. He was part of the Cabin 5 crew. We kept that crew together. We're now the Nightingales. Not sure about that name, Phil.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Don't really know what it means. But it is really cool. It's been like a giant reunion, like a summer camp thing where you see your friends again. It's awesome.
For sure.
And Jerry, you are the black belt instructor for Wolfpack MMA in Forney,
yes,
Texas.
I'm the co-owner and instructor owner in Forney, Texas. Yes, Wolfpack MMA.
Excellent, excellent. And Phil, you had the first question.
Right. So you traveled here with a bunch of your guys, which I think is awesome. We recruited Landon so far. I think with his help, we'll get even more people next year.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to know, of the people who came down, which one's your favorite?
Out of everybody,
I'm just kidding. I'm just totally kidding. But go ahead and write it down because they can't.
Oh, I'll slip it to you on a piece of paper.
But no, that's so cool that they came down. And do you guys kind of go over what you did? Talk about this stuff a lot?
This is my 4th or 5th camp. I can't quite remember, but I'm still going back to the very first camp and reviewing notes and videos and things, because we're always learning. I always tell my students, jiu-jitsu doesn't end at black belt. You're just starting a whole other chapter. And what I did was I went back and reviewed all the basics, the fundamentals, and started all over again. And that's what's good about this camp. I mean, because you can, just because I'm in the brown and black belt group, I could easily go sit in and watch the white belts and the purple belts and blue belts and pick up little things. They do such a good job here, man. I really love coming here. It's definitely a great experience. And I get to meet guys and build long-lasting friendships, relationships, We
were just talking about two of the things you said about talking with Nicole, and she was talking about how everybody comes here and you just create these friendships, and they're a little bit different when it's a jiu-jitsu friendship.
Yeah.
And then also we were doing, I think 2 days ago, Alexi was doing a De La Riva sweep, and there was another black belt. I don't remember his name right now, but he was talking about just the details that he puts in to his instruction. He's like, that's worth the whole week right there. He's like, I do De La Riva stuff already. That is something I'm missing, and that detail unlocks it. And he's a black belt, and it's interesting for us, because there's so many different levels that we're always, realizing new levels, and then seeing that from people who seem, I can't comprehend how much at this point. It's cool to see.
Right. Well, like I said, I use that example. We were just talking about it at dinner time. You saw Brian, one of my new guys that came in. He's mid-session guy, and I said, man, everything we've covered, with the black belts and the brown belts, are things that I like to do, but just a little tweak on something. I'm like, I love it that much more.
Yeah, it's always learning. And what I find interesting, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but I'm sure that by coming to this camp, you see different teaching methods, because I know that whenever we see something, our professor John Plyler, he has every detail all the time, but we're not ready to listen to it, right? Whenever sometimes until we've seen it 10, 12, 15, 20 times, whatever it is. But do you take, what have you taken away from some of the styles of some of the black belt professors, teachers here at the camp?
They all have such different personalities, but also so many similarities. It's kind of hard to. That's a great question.
Thank you.
I don't even know how to answer that really, but I've had Alexei down at my gym because I came from my first jiu-jitsu school was a De La Riva based school, and it's one of those things. I'm not a guard player per se, but I always tell my students, even though I don't like to pull guard and play guard, I make myself do it, because that way, if I go against somebody that does it, I know how to counter it and react to it. And so just like the way he explains everything, just little minute details that I thought maybe I didn't know or I didn't know. He's just so good at it. Hafa, I like Hafa because Hafa brings that little bit of a comedy to it, which makes you focus more. You get someone who's dull and you may have had an instructor here or there. It's like you don't listen to them as much, but it seems like everybody here has such a good vibe,
That's an interesting point, because every time he talks, you're paying attention.
Yeah, you will pay attention to Hafa because he engages you, with his personality.
Yeah.
And they all do, but they all do it in different ways,
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think that learning and doing jiu-jitsu should be fun, and introducing that into their teaching style. I think that's super important. One of the reasons I love coming here. So,
yeah, it's a great place, man. And I try to get as many of my students as I can. And I'm glad I got 4 or 5 here. Maybe next year I'll have 6 or 7,
No, that's incredible. I think it is something. I think that just doing jiu-jitsu outside of your home gym anywhere is a great way to see jiu-jitsu, because like you say, you might not be a guard player, but you want to learn that guard.
Absolutely.
And same thing whenever you go to another school. Phil and I have been lucky enough to travel around and go to many jiu-jitsu academies, and it's always interesting to see what they're playing and learn from them.
Right.
And so, Jerry, if you're looking back and you look at your white belt self and you were able to go back in time, that's how long ago was that?
That was at least 15 years.
At least 15 years ago.
15, probably 16.
Right. What would you tell yourself on your jiu-jitsu journey that you think would help along the way?
Another excellent question. I came from a wrestling background. I also did Taekwondo as a kid, like most people from my generation did Taekwondo. And, I was always that person that I like finishing what I start.
Sure.
What I would tell myself is, man, I don't even know how to answer that. Man, you're stumping me with all these questions.
That's okay.
Question. At first when I got into it, it was about, getting in shape and
same here.
And, it was very frustrating for a little while. There was a point in time where I was so frustrated that I almost did quit jiu-jitsu, but a lot of it was based on the environment I was training in, and it'd get to the point where I would be on my way to class and I'd almost turn around and go back home. But now I look at it and like I have a daughter who does jiu-jitsu, and she took a little bit of a break, and I never force her to do anything. I always tell people, come here, come to my school, have fun. My jiu-jitsu is not going to be your jiu-jitsu. So when I show you something, you may have to, because I always get that, whoa, dude, can I do this? Absolutely. You do whatever you want as long as it works for you. I'm giving you what works for me, and you take it and you tweak it. So, I mean, like I said, what I tell myself is, it gets better for sure, you know, because it is frustrating coming from a wrestling background. You never want to be on your back, and I found myself getting choked out by everybody and getting so frustrated. And then, like, all of a sudden, the light clicked on one day, and it was like, it was an aha moment. And I get some of my students, they go, "Man, coach or professor, you know, I just can't seem to get this. What's going on?" It's a process. It takes time. You know, Phil may pick up a technique after one or two tries.
No, he won't.
Oh, he won't? Okay. but I tell him, you know, don't get frustrated with it. If I can go back, I say, listen, don't get frustrated with it. It's a process. It takes time. Enjoy the journey, because it is such a journey well worth taking.
I think that's great advice. I mean, and it's funny, you know, we had 8 black belt episode, and how many of them said have fun? I know Trey Pace was one of them that said have fun, and that was one of his things that he said was most important, to have fun.
Absolutely. You know, like my kids program, the kids, they have to have fun. You want kids, you know, having a school and everything, you're gonna lose people. You're gonna have that revolving door.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes I shouldn't take it hard, but I do, because I want everyone that comes through my door to finish that journey, because I want them to feel what I felt when I got handed my black belt. You know, it was the best feeling in the world. You know, it goes on there with meeting my wife, getting married, and having my kids. It's literally one of those top feelings, you know. And to share it with when my wife and kids walked in, it was a surprise. And I saw my wife and kids walk in, and my hands were shaking, because at that time, now I kind of had an idea, well, why is my wife and kids walking? And I realized what was happening, you know. And I want you to have that experience. I want Phil to have that experience, and I want my daughter and everyone else who comes in. But, you know, you have to understand that you get these people that they want to learn it fast. They want that quick fix, and it's not like that for everybody. Just enjoy the journey. Take your time. Don't be in a rush, because it will go by fast. It may not seem like it at the time, but it will go by fast.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw that Tom DeBlast video. Whenever he talks about his students leaving, I think it was in particular the blue belts leaving, and he was in his car recording it, and he said, "It breaks my heart.
Yeah,
it breaks my heart that you're not going to realize your potential."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's so powerful, and I think it's important for everybody out there that's listening to understand that your coach, your professor, has a vested interest in your well-being.
Absolutely.
And that's all they're interested in. Yeah. So yeah, no, that's very interesting.
And John Plyler, our professor, last time he was talking with us, he said something similar, and he's like, it frustrates him when people leave, because, and I'm sure we don't either yet, but he's like, you don't know what you're quitting yet. Like, you don't even understand it yet. Yeah. You don't know what you're going to be
especially
missing.
When it's someone who's doing really well. You know, I just lost a kid who was doing really well. He had started competing, and competition's not, you know, I don't force competition on anybody. My kids want to compete, they compete. If my adults want to compete, great. I'm there for you 100%. But this kid was doing really well, and the dad came to me and says, you know, he's just not passionate about it. And I go, he's 7 years old. And he goes, well, I'm going to put him in football. And I'm like, hey, listen, you're his father. As much as it breaks my heart for me to see him go, because I see potential in him, you're his father. Ultimately, you're going to make the decision. He goes, well, maybe I'll bring him back in 6 months to a year. Do you imagine? I mean, I know when I take time off, what I forget. Now imagine a kid now who was literally getting ready to get promoted here within a couple weeks. You taking that away from him to put him in football. And listen, if you want to put your kids in football, baseball, basketball, whatever, that's great. I think that's important. But, you know, it broke my heart to see that kid go.
No, I get it. I get it. And we have that too. Phil and I help coach the kids, and, you know,
That's so rewarding.
It is so rewarding. And also you see the kid who can barely stare at their shoes, much less look at you in the eye, come in brand new. And then after 3, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, they're outgoing. They're talking to everyone in class. Right. They're looking at you. They have confidence. It's such an incredible, you know, I always say it, and then I kind of recanted on this statement before, but I always say it would have been great to have jiu-jitsu then to see what it was like. But then again, I don't know if I would have been as passionate about it then as I am now.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. I mean, like I said, growing up, we never heard of jiu-jitsu. I didn't know of jiu-jitsu until I was home on leave from the military, and there was a pay-per-view in 93.
Yeah, that's 91st.
The very first UFC.
Yep.
And I remember watching, and I'm like, oh man, that big dude's gonna smash that dude. And I'm like, no way. And then for a little while, I was actually really dead set against jiu-jitsu. I thought it was all a bunch of BS. And
wow, that's funny.
Yeah, I did. I was like, there's no way that guy beat that guy. There's no way. It was all staged. It was fixed. And then how I got into it was my buddies from the PD, you know, I was on the sheriff's department. I had surgery, and I was down for like 6 months, gained a ton of weight, sitting around eating and not working out. And my buddies were like, hey, we're starting this basement dojo, if you want to call it, right? And I go, okay, what do you want from me? Well, come on down. We're going to do jiu-jitsu. I go, no, I'm not doing jiu-jitsu. That's a bunch of BS. And they're like, well, you do stand-up. Why don't you show us some stand-up? I'll get around to it. And they would bug me every week. So finally they got me to come on a Sunday night before work, because I used to work the midnight shift.
Sure.
And they get me in there, and it's a couple of my PD buddies and some guys I'd never seen before. And there was these 2 twin brothers from Oklahoma. Okay.
Wrestlers?
Yes.
Okay.
But they were small guys. They were like smaller than Phil. Okay.
That's tiny. There's nobody smaller than Phil.
And I swear to God, these 2 guys took turn. I think when I wasn't looking, they were tagging each other in and beating the living tar out of me. And I remember getting up, walking outside, throwing up, coming back, getting beat up again, throwing up. And then I got home that night, and I threw my gym bag, and my wife's like, what's your problem? And I go, what happened to me tonight will never happen again. And then I focused all my training on jiu-jitsu. I mean, I started watching, we had VHS tapes.
Sure, right? Yeah, because you could rent them at Blockbuster. I used to rent them at Blockbuster, the old UFC fights. It's hilarious. And you know what, to that end, there was people that were saying it was BS, and I was like, no way, that guy's a stud. You know, I was like, hoist crazy. I was a super fan. Yeah. Back then. I was the complete
opposite. I was like, there's no way that little skinny dude is going to beat that guy.
Yeah.
You know, but it changed me. And actually it's funny because there was like 10 of us, and every Sunday and every Thursday we'd go train at my friend Matt's house. And, out of the 10 of us, 2 of us actually went and joined official schools and finished the journey and got our black belts. The rest just kind of faded off.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that, of 10 of you, 20%, that's a pretty damn good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Because what now, 2% of all people who start jiu-jitsu get their black belt, I think?
Yeah, it's a low
1 or 2%, something like that.
It's a low percentage. But
I like to make up numbers sometime, but I think I did read that at one point in time.
No, I think you're pretty accurate on that.
That's incredible, man. And so what was that, like 94, 95? Was that?
No, that was, believe it or not, that was 2003, 2004, give or take. Yeah, and that was my journey into jiu-jitsu. I got beat up by 2 twin brothers who, I think, like I said, when they had me pinned to the ground and I couldn't look because I was praying to God with my eyes closed, and they were tag teaming each other in and beating the tar out of me. That's how I got into jiu-jitsu.
Now, did either one of them reach black belt?
No,
they didn't.
No, my good friend who was on the police department with me, Frank Dupay, him and I, we finished our journeys. Well, didn't finish our. We're not finished, right?
Sure, of course.
We made it to that part of our journey. The rest of them, they just kind of faded off.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, well, you've had longevity then. 2003, that's a lot of years of training.
Yeah.
What do you think it can help people with longevity and training. You know, it's not like the old days of going in and just beating the hell out of each other. That's not how things are structured now.
Right.
You know, which is a good thing, I believe.
Well, one thing I do at my school, when I get a new person, I always ask them, do you have any grappling experience, any boxing, any martial arts experience at all? And I always kind of, it may not be popular, but when they first, I introduce them to all my high ranks, you know, hey, this is this. And my guys, they take them in, they welcome them in. I have a very good group of guys, great group of guys, and they all introduce themselves, welcome each other in. But one thing I don't do is I don't let anybody roll until like the third class.
Oh, yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, I mean, It was for us. It's 10 classes.
Right. Some guys, like, I know, man, they want to roll right away. No, you kind of sit there and watch and learn a little bit. So I figured by the third, because I don't want them to feel like they're being excluded, right? And I personally think 10 is a good number, but I keep it right around 3. What I tell a lot of these guys, especially because my gym is a lot of older guys. You know, I'm 48. I've got that 40 through 45 demographic for the most part.
Sure.
I tell them, hey guys, pace yourself. Don't kill each other every round. I go take it from someone who's been around for a while, and I've had a lot of injuries. I've had shoulder surgery, foot surgery, multiple things here and there. If you want to, especially for the older guy, if you want to continue, you have to know your limitations. We're not 21 years old, 22 years old. And I do have some young guys that go in there and they want to, beat the living crap out of each other. But I tell everybody, pace yourself. You know, if you're hurt, don't feel like you're obligated to roll. We're not winning championships here. There is no Wolfpack MMA championship medal at the end of class. Take care of yourself, take care of your body, and that's really, how I go about it.
Yeah. And on those, whenever you do get those new white belts, they have their third class, do you pair them with the upper belts usually?
Yeah, they're only allowed to roll my blue belts are above.
Yeah, because the other
white belts
is like fresh meat.
They're gonna be like, oh yeah, they sit there, grabbing their hands, salivating at the mouth and everything. So yeah, no, I make sure that I tell all my guys, I tell my instructors, and I tell them you can roll, but you can roll with any of my color belts, and my color belts already know, hey, all right, I'm gonna work with this guy.
No, of course, and you know what too. I think there's some value in that, and I'll just give you a preface to this comment, and that is that I was a spazzy white belt, right? I wrestled for a number of years. I was 310 pounds when I started, and I had 2 minutes of fury,
right?
And I would roll, and then, and I don't know, it might have been a wink or a nod or something, but one of our upper belts, now Ryan Leggett, who's a black belt, just absolutely wore me out one day. And I was like, oh, I get it. Now I get it. Now I get what they're saying is and since that day, I've always been very calm with that and tried to help those new people that come in the door to be the same, because it's tough, man. It's tough when you're being physically dominated by another person who's by the way, 100 pounds or 50 pounds lighter than you.
Well, think of it this way. Imagine being that. I mean, you come from a wrestling background, so competition. I'm not sure if Phil. But think about it. If you're that person who, and I've actually had this walking in, you've got no martial arts experience, no grappling experience at all, and you're walking into a gym, and it's an intimidating thing, So I try to make sure that everybody feels welcome, and feel free to ask any questions. We try to be a big family. But it's intimidating. I've had people literally walk in the door and then turn around and walk right out. I asked, did you know that person? And they're like, no, I don't know who that was. And it was because they were intimidated. They walk in there, they see all the punching bags, they see all these big burly guys and gis, and it can be daunting. I try to make sure everybody feels welcome and at home.
That's part of the reason I didn't roll for a couple months, because I was like, this is cool. I like it. I think it works, but like I can't make it work. I have no idea what's going on. You know, I didn't understand at the time rolling is how you learn, you know, a big part, but you know, it was, especially being smaller, I was like, there's no need for me to jump in yet. Let me try to figure some stuff out. But now I try to let people know ahead of time, like, I know exactly what you're thinking, but nobody's going to kill you.
Right.
Until I shamed him into rolling.
He shamed me into rolling. It worked.
Multiple times.
Yeah. Eventually it worked.
Yeah. So Jerry, the one question, I've got a couple questions like this, and they're pretty open-ended, but what I'd like to know is, what's the best advice you've ever received from anyone in jiu-jitsu? And hey, it might not even be, you know, a black belt. It might be somebody that's new and gave you a different perspective on something, or anything like that. But what's the best advice you've ever received with regards to jiu-jitsu?
Well, my current professor, I started with one at school, and I actually tell my students, you know, I almost quit jiu-jitsu. Like I said earlier, I almost quit jiu-jitsu because it was a very toxic training environment. And my buddy, he was a purple belt. I was a blue belt at the time. And he's like, man, you know what? This guy, we were not happy with our instructor. And he started losing people left and right. And my buddy says, hey, let's go talk to Patrick Robinson. Patrick Robinson was a guy who was another black belt in our area. And he welcomed us in with open arms. He says, you guys are welcome to come train here. And obviously, you know, he rolled with me and everything. And he says, you know, you have got great defense. He says, but that's all you're doing. And he goes, and you're spending all your time defending. He goes, hey, how about you get caught in something, you fight it for a minute or two, tap, reassess, and start over. He says, because you're wasting all your time defending, that you're not attacking. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. And I thought about it. I said, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. And literally from that point on, like if you caught me in a triangle, I mean, I'd fight it for 5-10 seconds. But I'm like, well, why fight it for a minute? We're just training, right? How about learning how you got put in that triangle, tapping and letting it go, and not making the same mistake twice. So to me, that was the best advice. He says, man, allow yourself to be submitted. I know sometimes, and that's hard, right? That's hard. We always say, leave your ego at the door, but let's face it, we're men. We got testosterone. We want to win all the time. But literally, that is what really turned my jiu-jitsu around.
Yeah, no, I think that's a super valuable lesson. And also, you know, that minute you spent fighting it, you could have asked that upper belt and said, hey, what did I do wrong there? Right, exactly. Like, tap early. What did I do wrong there? Show me this, and not do it again. Right. I think that's super valuable advice. I want to go back to...
Yeah, I think I might have the same question.
Go, Phil.
All right, because you had talked about, and like in our academy, it's a really big deal, culture. Mm-hmm. And that's something we talked a little bit about, like James and AJ, and didn't really get as deep as we'd like to. What are some of the things that were happening, or maybe a better way to ask it, what are some of the things that you try to do to promote the culture to be what you think it should be? And
also, before you answer that, I would like to know, you know, A, what made that environment toxic? B, how long did you stay in that environment? And what would you suggest to others that are in that environment? Because
I've literally, we had this conversation like a week or two ago. Mm-hmm. There was an article posted that was like 5, you know, signs your academy is toxic and you shouldn't train it. And I'm like reading it and I'm like, this can't even be real. I'm like, this is dumb. Right. And he's like, there has to be places like that, right, or else this wouldn't be posted, and people don't, you know, you're just ignorant. I literally walked into the first place that showed up on Google, signed up for a year, you know? So I get looking at it, thinking about it a little more, you could go into the wrong one.
Right. Well, you know, kind of a little backstep here real quick, and it's going to lead right into where I'm going with your question.
Sure.
I actually started jiu-jitsu with Patrick Robinson, who is my current professor, who awarded me my black belt. And, but the problem was that a lot of my friends were at this other location, and Patrick was a little bit farther for me to go. So I left and I followed the pack, right? And it was good at first, but he was very big on competition. And I get that. Some schools,
sure.
Some schools, that's what they do, right? But it wasn't just competition. There was no such thing as a practice class. When you rolled, it was competition. And it was almost like if you didn't beat everybody, the professor would look at you and just kind of nod his head. Like, I'll give you an example. So I was a blue belt and we were doing white belt testing. And he goes, Jerry, go with this white belt. So I go with the white belt so he can drill, practice. And he got mad because I was allowing him to do the techniques that he was needing to do to pass. He was mad. He's like furious with me. You shouldn't have let him do that. Well, that's what he needed to pass. I was helping him, right? He did the technique correct. Why am I going to fight it? And that was fear. He was furious. And he was one that if you competed, you didn't not only have to compete, you had to win, or else you were not going to get promoted. But coming from a guy who only competed one time and lost, but yet he put that standard.
Seems crazy.
It is crazy, right? But Patrick, when we went to go see Patrick, my friend Jim and I, he says, and Patrick is a Pan Am champion, world champion. He's traveled internationally to Japan, Germany, Brazil, and he's won everywhere. He says, I don't care if you compete or not. Just come here and train. He goes, all I ask for you to do is come here and train. And you will get the results you want. He goes, you want to compete? Great, compete. But if you don't want to, it's not a rule here. So like for me, with my students, it's the same thing. I try to make it a fun environment. Especially with the adults, cut up a little bit here and there because it can't always be serious, right? You want to go there, you want to have a good time. So, and I tell my students, like someone's like, well, I want to compete. Okay, why do you want to compete? Is it because you think you have to compete, or is it you just want to do it? And some guys are like, well, I think competition helps you get better. And it does. It does. Let's face it. A blue belt that competes all the time compared to a blue belt that doesn't is going to be at a different level. But I don't press that on anybody. I just want them, like I said, I want them to drill, have a good time. Feel free to ask any questions. Don't feel like there's any pressure on you. And again, enjoy the process because it will come. So.
No, agreed. And for all those people out there that are stuck in those environments, there's too much good jiu-jitsu out there today. There's too many great professors like you, Jerry, out there today that can help you with your journey. Don't get stuck in that. If you're listening to it, you're going through similar things, get out. I mean, find another place, go train there, because I can tell you it's not those. I can't even believe that they exist anymore, but they still do.
Yeah. I mean, and that was a long time ago. And, that other guy, he's still running a successful school. And hey, listen, more power to him. I don't begrudge anybody. I did what was best for me. And I got up and I left. And, Patrick, my professor, has been not only my friend, but I even told him when he came to do a seminar just a couple of weeks ago, I said, he's been my friend. He's been a mentor to me. And for that, I'll be forever grateful, because I literally was on the verge of quitting.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah. And because you made that change, it probably reignited your passion for jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Phil, what else?
No, I like that answer a lot, though, because I love competition, love the idea of it. I don't do it every weekend. I try to do it a couple times a year and stuff. I think it does make you better. I think everybody should do it. But I think when you're training, there needs to be times for that. And then there needs to be a lot more time that's not that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, everyone has their own reasons, right? Whether it's they get in shape or they feel they get better, or they just want to come and have fun.
And that's another thing we were talking about recently too, is how jiu-jitsu can always be there, but the goals are going to change. Mm-hmm. He started to get in shape, then he wanted to win a competition. Now he's just trying to figure out how to sweep somebody or something. What are you trying to figure out now?
Everything about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
right?
But yeah, major goal changes. Like at first for me, I was basically looking for a hobby. Like 3 weeks in, I'm like, all right, I'm going to compete at some point. Like I love competition. It didn't take me long for that.
I get that. I've got, like I said, some guys, they come in, walk into the door scared. Next thing you know, they love jiu-jitsu and they're training. Hey, hey, coach, do you think I do a tournament? Absolutely. Which tournament do you want to do? I mean, we're pretty fortunate in the Dallas area, man. We have tournaments like pretty much almost every weekend.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And good venues too, you know. So like I said, but it's never, I never push it. I want my students to have a good time.
It's actually funny now because I remember asking John about competing for the first time, and it was like almost like a weird question to ask where I was kind of nervous about what he might say. Like he might just be like, well, you're a white belt and you suck, so probably not. You know? But like, obviously, that's not what they're gonna say. And like looking back, I'm actually thinking about it now. I haven't thought about it in forever since you just mentioned that. But it's like I remember asking for the first time, and he's like, if you're gonna compete, I recommend you do it as soon as possible because experience is what's gonna matter. And I found that to be one of the truest things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Whenever, and I'm interested in this because I have my own thoughts on it. But what do you tell someone whenever they say, hey, professor, when should I compete? And I want to compete. When should I compete?
I tell them when you feel comfortable. I don't give them time frames, you know, because you know, like I got one guy, he wrestled in college. He competed within a month, and he obviously did really, really well.
Sure.
Right. And not everybody has that pedigree. But I always tell them, hey, when you feel you're ready, you enter in that tournament. And if there's something you want to work on, I will work on it with you specifically. You know, and if you have a lot of your classmates that want to compete at the same time, we'll do a training camp. We'll have fun with it. Like how I used to do when back in my other school, we'd do a training camp and we'd roll jiu-jitsu for, you know, like hours. Then we'd go do, you know, workouts afterwards. And it was fun, man. I remember it was just so much fun, you know, doing that. But I don't set a time frame. I tell them, hey, when you're ready, when you think you're ready, if it's 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, whenever you feel you're ready. So.
Yeah. And so some of the other people in our academy, they asked me, they're like, when do you think I should compete? I said, well, you're thinking about competing, right?
Right.
They're like, yeah. I was like, then now's the time.
Right. No, that's a great answer, man.
know?
That's a really good answer.
When do you, because it's so beneficial, you know, like you said, the benefits are well documented on competing. You see holes in your game.
Yes.
I mean, that's where what you get out of it. You get that, hey, first off, a reality check.
Yes.
You know, that someone that's going 100%, which you rarely see. I mean, when you think about it, when we're rolling 60, 70% maybe max that we're going to go. Right. And so that someone who's coming after you 100%, it's a whole other level.
Right. Right.
And so just having that experience, having that, you know, oh shit, here it is.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
They grab onto that lapel and it's like, oh crap, this guy means business.
Different
right?
grip, yeah.
Yeah. It's not the one you're used to with your buddy smacking hand slap, bumping fist.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. You're not clearing that grip quite so fast.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's important. If you're thinking about competing, get out and compete.
No, that's a great answer. No, seriously, because like I said, if you're thinking about it, then it's you need to do it.
Agreed. And again, the benefits are phenomenal. It really, and I think what John says is like competing. Every match you compete is like 10 classes. I think that's what he told me.
I've heard that somewhere. I'm not sure if it was
I think
John.
he told me that one time.
Would agree with
I
that.
do make up numbers on the spot
all the
sometimes.
time,
yeah,
and quotes.
So that might not be completely accurate, but I think that's around what he said. So you think about it. I mean, that's a great experience. Jerry, anything, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, want to train with you, want to just check out where you're at and what you're doing, where can they do that?
We on Facebook, obviously, Wolfpack MMA Forney. You can contact us anytime. I have an email. I mean, if you want me,
No, you don't have to do that.
I can put your Facebook page in the
Put Facebook, yeah, Wolfpack MMA Forney, and give us a shout. You know, we're usually pretty good about answering any kind of messages right away.
Yeah, no, appreciate you having us or coming on the show with us. And Phil, if our listeners choose to support us, how can they do that? BJJCampaignPodcast.com, t-shirts, patches, or a combo pack. And combo pack is fire.
It is. Very true. Facebook.com/BJJ Campaign Podcast. Join the group. If you for some reason have to request access to it, just add me or Jeff, and we'll invite you to the group. It should be open.
And Instagram, we're at the Origin Immersion Jiu-Jitsu camp this week. So follow us on Instagram at BJJ Campaign Podcast. And also, if you like the podcast, you probably do Jiu-Jitsu, and you probably have friends who do it as well. Send them a link to it. Share it with them. Trying to grow this thing and appreciate all the listeners. And last but not least, if you're not out there doing something better each and every day, get out there and do it. Phil, Jerry, myself, we choose Jiu-Jitsu. We hope you do too. This episode of the BJJ Campaign Podcast is brought to you by Speed Pro East Bay in Alameda, California, in the heart of the San Francisco Bay Area. They're the source for premium visual solutions to spruce up your interior space. From window decals and wall murals to conference room graphics and directional signage, create a work environment that is tailored to your brand. They'll not only print your custom graphics, but do installation as well. Visit eastbayspeedpro.com. That's EASTBAYSPEEDPRO.com. And mention the BJJ Campaign Podcast for 15% off your first order. Also, Eddie is a jiu-jitsu guy, so folks, go out there and support him.
I'm about to feed him to the sharks right now. Get him hype right now. Yeah. You know the ground is up. Yeah. Everybody that trains, you know the game. Yeah. So let's get it. Slap it up, bump it, and roll. Hey. Yeah, that's the way that it goes. Ain't no better way to better yourself in this game. You're feeling the growth. That's time on the mat. We put in the work. Believe it ain't easy, I know. But we train for the love of the game, the love of the art. Now slap it up, bump it, let's roll.